And for those who are watching us this morning, you can see that the table has greatly expanded. I am here joined by some of our SuperTalk Mississippi news team. I've got Ben Milam and Caleb Salers. Y'all are going to read us in a little bit of what happened yesterday. So I guess give us quick the overview of some of the speeches you saw yesterday before we get into a preview of what to expect later today here out at the Neshoba County Fair.
So Mandy, it really didn't take long for temperatures to kind of get flaring a little bit here at the Neshoba County Fair, but this one, it may be previewing what could be a contentious gubernatorial election in 2027, right?
Yeah.
We're in term 2 of Tate Reeves' administration, but you've got some that are kind of, we're here at the Neshoba County Fair. We got the horse jockeys. Well, we had some political jockeying yesterday.
All right.
Some of our candidates, you had our state auditor, Shad White, taking some shots at Delbert Hosemann, our lieutenant governor, basically accusing him of enabling DEI to training to be utilized or enforced in state agencies, taxpayer-funded entities such as colleges and universities, and at the taxpayer's dime.
Yeah.
Basically saying that state monies have been used to facilitate DEI, and that Delbert Hosemann hasn't done anything to allow measures that would block that from going through the Senate. And the lieutenant governor fired back. He didn't address those criticisms specifically, but he did make a little jab at our state auditor's stature. He raised the microphone up to his face yesterday and said, I got to follow up the short guy. And then he mocked the state auditor's book in a press conference after his speech, too. So it looks like, while Shad White has said that he is strongly considering a gubernatorial run in 2027, the lieutenant governor hasn't specifically said that, but he does seem to be indicating that he does want to run for governor. So, this is it. You got two heavyweights in the Mississippi Republican Party scene, and this could be them taking off the gloves to what could be another 3 years of sparring and ahead of what could be a very contentious governor's race down the road.
Yeah, it seems a little early for that. We just had our election last year, but no time like the present, I guess, when you're in politics. And it's interesting, though. I will say I'm glad Shad brought up the growth of DEI. That is, it's a big problem that has really corroded educational systems from the very beginning all the way through. So I think that's a very important issue. Glad that he's focusing on it. And I'll tell you, to me, everybody's really tall. So the short jokes don't land on me that well, but that's interesting. An interesting way to get things going. All right, what else was happening yesterday? I know you're following a few of the other speeches that are out there. Some non-political or non-partisan, I should say, races that some folks are out here watching.
That's right. There are two open Supreme Court seats. Those two of those speeches will be today. Those are two of the first, and looking at my schedule, those are the first two speeches that we'll hear today. But yesterday, just to go back to kind of what we heard on what you would call an off year, there was still, you called that, beginning of that. I don't even know if the beginning of it, that's kind of been ongoing between Lieutenant Governor and Shad White. But it's I think kind of being used this off year as a table setter for a lot of people. But there are still elections that will be happening. Ty Pinkins challenging Roger Wicker.
Okay.
He was one of the big ones, I thought, yesterday, who was very direct in his challenging of Roger Wicker, both military veterans, 21 years in the military for Ty Pinkins. Roger Wicker, Air Force veteran. And one of the big things Ty Pinkins talked a lot about was that oath that you take as a military man. And he commanded soldiers, and he was in leadership positions. Same thing with Roger Wicker, talking about that oath that you take over and over and over again to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And Ty Pinkins said Roger Wicker has not upheld that oath, which to me, I think some people, it seemed like there would have been maybe a little bit more of a reaction to that, because that's a pretty big challenge. That is a very weighty thing that Ty Pinkins said Roger Wicker is not upholding. And so I would expect that, like the Shad White and Delbert Hosemann little spat, I would expect that to intensify, obviously, in an election year for those two. That would, continue to be an intense thing. I'm not sure Roger Wicker is going to address that. Was not a part of the political stumps, was here this past weekend campaigning. But that's one to keep an eye on. Ty Pinkins, I thought drew a pretty good response from what you would presume is a Republican-heavy crowd, running as a Democrat, and we've seen him run in statewide elections before. Seemed to I don't know if you could say draw votes, because you have no idea if that's the case or not, but seemed to draw good responses and, referenced the January 6th insurrection, as he called it, and made an appeal to unity. And DeKeither Stamps also spoke yesterday. The Public Service Commissioner made a call to unity and referenced the assassination attempt. So it was really interesting. Caleb was talking about that as we were talking about that as we were walking out of the fairground. Interesting how they took different angles to that call to unity.
Yeah, the juxtaposition between the two Democratic, one elected official and one a candidate for office. You had, Commissioner Stamps calling for unity, and he's basically saying that the assassination attempt on former President Trump was alarming, shocking, sickening, and shocking and sickening. I got ahead of myself there, and then he also took it a step further and called for our sitting president, Joe Biden, to resign from office, which was kind of a damning indictment on the president, I thought. Or, I was on with Gerard Gibbert yesterday giving a recap of the speeches, and Gerard kind of posed the thought that maybe there could be some nefarious intentions there. Maybe the Public Service Commissioner and maybe some other prominent Democratic figures could want to amplify the vice president to that presidential position to kind of give her the appearance. She's sitting in the Oval Office. She's looking presidential ahead of the election. I don't know, maybe to manipulate voters or presumptive voters, but he did call for President Joe Biden to step down. He said not only would it be in the best interest of America, but that would serve in the best interest of Mississippi, too. And I'd actually like to get to talk to Commissioner Stamps more on why that would be in the best interest of Mississippians. But it was interesting to see those two Democratic candidates kind of approach the topic of unity, but from completely different perspectives.
Yeah, I'd say it's interesting, especially coming from a potential or a Senate candidate running from the Democrat Party platform, talking about service to the country. Obviously, that's something that continues to be extremely important throughout the Deep South. This is a place where I bet there's majority veterans in any collection of folks listening to these types of speeches, but they're going to focus on that because they probably don't want to focus on the rest of the Democrat Party platform that would not be very popular here. Things like open borders that we've seen under Kamala Harris, the border czar that now has been recast as, well, she was just the point person that has led to over 10 million illegals coming across the border and really undermining crime and safety stability at the local level. Things about spending, the what we were just referencing that Shad was calling out, DEI and something ESG, environmental social governance. This is DEI applied in a business setting. I'm going to talk a little bit later with State Treasurer David McRae about that. But I understand why when you come here you talk about the things that the crowd may like, and you probably want to avoid the other pieces of the party platform that are not popular in these parts for obvious reason.
Well, I think especially in the current political climate, there's a little bit of a rift, if you want to say that, and Ty Pinkins, DeKeither Stamps, guys like that, Willie Simmons did, I think have to appeal to that middle ground, and I think there is more of that than people really think about, and I think they found that yesterday. I will say Ty Pinkins did address reproductive rights at the very end of his speech, drew some cheers from the crowd too, and probably, maybe ticked a few Republicans off, but that was, I would assume, his purpose.
Yeah, well,
there were some eye rolls in the crowd.
I'm sure there was a mixture.
There was eye rolls, but you did see him. He stuck to unity and military service and appealed to that demographic of the crowd. And then I thought when he touched on the abortion topic, I thought, that might be where he kind of derails his speech, because you read the room, and this is definitely not that room, especially in a state where Mississippi led the way for Roe versus Wade to be overturned, and Neshoba County played a big part in that. Electing pro-life Republican officials. Yeah,
well, gentlemen, look, thank you so much for joining us today, giving us the read. We've got to take a quick break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with more.